Right. Good morning, everyone. First off, I was just going to say we've all been sitting for 2-3 hours, maybe 2-second stretch. Everyone, you want to get up? No? All right. My name is Mandana Mellano. I head up marketing for a company called ThinkNear by Telenav. We are a location-based mobile platform. And today I want to talk to you a little bit more about how to be smarter in terms of your efforts with location-based media and how you can take it well beyond the standard use cases of, say, geofencing. Sorry, I forgot to ask about the clicker. I just pressed this. Okay. All right. What? Where do I point it to? This way? Yeah. All right. So true story, our company actually exists because of a crappy restaurant. Our founders were actually intrigued by this particular local spot that nobody would go to during lunchtime, and they thought, wouldn't it be cool if we started a company that tapped into location-based intelligence and media to drive foot traffic to places that don't get as much traffic during lunch hour? So they started by tapping into bitstream data, location-based bitstream data, and soon realized that there was so much inaccuracies in location data that it really was a lost battle to begin with. So let's say that idea failed because it just wasn't feasible given the quality of data, but it became the preamble to something even better, which is why we exist today, a company that's really grounded in location accuracy and reliability on good location data to do amazing things. So I'm sure a lot of you guys in business school and meetings and conversations have seen this example of a bar of iron costs $5. Made into horseshoe, it's $12. Made into needles, $3,500, and finally made into these intricate balance springs for watches up to $350,000. And that for me has always been the story behind the value of data, that it isn't the data itself or the scale of it that matters, but rather what you actually do with it. So today I want to talk to you about 2 examples of location data and what value it can bring to your business, particularly for the QSR category. Number 1, do you know that location data can actually help improve your effective reach? A real quick example, a real kind of world example. National chain restaurant, casual dining, doing standard geofencing, situated in this particular town. Some of you might recognize the city. I'll kind of like leave it at that, just for fun. They do the typical 2-mile radii geofence strategy. When we look at it and we layer that with location-based data and audience intelligence, we see that in reality, the concentration of their target audience is so spread out throughout this 2-mile radius. So in reality, there's so much waste. They're covering an area with people that would never visit that particular location. So tapping into things like demographic, lifestyle, life stage, as well as purchase intel, what do these things about their purchase patterns and habits tell us? And we go very, very granular. So forget about 1 mile, 2 mile, zip code. We look at home block group targeting, very, very specific in terms of the concentration of their desired target audience. And we find out that the green areas are actually affluent areas very close to the not so affluent areas that are their target audience. So being able to be that specific and being able to separate and kind of apply that laser-focused targeting makes all the difference. Imagine if you truly targeted that 2-mile radius and how much waste you were driving with your effort. So improving your effective reach with, like I said, home block group targeting allows you to obviously minimize your impression waste, be so much more focused, which obviously increases the relevancy of the ad, of the message, of the offer that you're trying to get across. And in turn, it gives you better performance and better conversion rate. So that was example number 1, super simple, really pointing about how you can do geofencing on steroid and not rely on the basic use cases. Second example, do you know how to leverage location data to find new customers? There was a lot of conversation earlier on the panel about new customers, and we all love new customers. So how do we get more of them? Where do we find them? And how do we look at location data to find more of them? Meet Jackie. She loves burgers, and she lives a mile away or a block away from your awesome local burger joint. She comes in, grabs a burger, and all of a sudden, you and the rest of the digital marketing world thinks Jackie is this. She lives and eats burger 5 times a day, and is probably never going to eat anything else but burgers. So when in reality, Jackie is a person. She's this multi-dimensional customer that has certain demographics and psychographics and visitation data associated with her behavior. But at the same time, she has interests, she has passion, she's motivated by certain things, she leads a certain lifestyle and has certain values that define who she is and why she makes the decisions that she makes. From fundamental life decisions all the way to why she might want to go grab a burger. So that gives us a pretty complete, a more completed picture of who Jackie is and how we can find more Jackies. But guess what? Location data alone is not enough. I think we can all agree that QSR is changing so rapidly, and I think the kind of like motivations driving customer decisions are so critical, and that cannot be uncovered by location alone. Just the fact that she likes burgers and lives close to your shop is not enough for her to be a repeat customer or for her to evangelize to bring you new customers. We need something beyond that. For us, that means being able to define Jackie's type. What is she driven by? What are her motivations and values? And how do we kind of apply what we call geotype, or essentially motivation-based targeting? That's how we find more Jackies, not because she eats a burger and where she lives, but rather what drives her decisions. We start by affinity and motivations. What are the types of QSR places that she might stop at? What are the types of retail stores that she's interested at, that she shops at? What does her social online search tell us? Is she interested in owning a home, a car? Is she not? What kind of a lifestyle she leads? All of that allows us to define what her type is, and how do we essentially leverage that as a baseline and as a common thread to find more Jackies. Through the sort of suite of capabilities that we have at ThinkNear with regards to location-based intelligence, audience data, data sciences and analytics to really help you uncover audience insights, we really want to get at two main points. One, getting more competitive intel for the brands, and two, finding more Jackies. So the geotype kind of examples that you see on the side are essentially that motivation-based targeting that I spoke about. Everything else around that circle is getting more competitive intel. We can get to things like frequency analysis. I know somebody spoke earlier about how frequent their customers visit and what that means. Like this particular example on top shows you that 6% of your guests drive nearly 30% of your local store visits. That's a pretty significant number and pretty important to kind of figure out how do you gain more of that 6%? How do you make them come back more, or even how do you convert more of that 26 and 67% into the yellow category? So making the occasional visitors a frequent visitor, and how we apply that to how, where, and what you target them with so that it's more relevant and more actionable. We can tell you things like how long people or how much are they willing to drive to your local QSR locations next to your 2 top competitors. We can tell you hours of the day, specific days of the week where you might have an opportunity over your competitors or vice versa, so that you can be smarter in how you go about your conquesting strategies. All of that culminates into the 4 core products that we look at. Where you are, who you are, where you've been, and what motivates you. This is important because you can't apply every single one of this in the same way to every campaign. Just as we look at your audience holistically, we look at the media that you design for them holistically too. So it really requires a bespoke strategy to kind of employ and activate 1, 2, maybe all 4 of these things as it applies to your brand, so that you can get to what we spoke about earlier, which is gaining more competitive intel so you know who you're up against and what you're dealing with. And 2, defining and leveraging that type so that you can find more of it and drive them to your stores. We've been pioneering location-based mobile ads. We work with a number of QSR brands locally, nationally, across the US, and 10 minutes is not a lot of time. So if you have questions, if you want to get in touch with us and learn more, Yummy at ThinkNear. And thank you, guys.
All right. Well, actually, Mandana, that was great. And any questions for Mandana? Actually, you have a team here, and we're going to do a coffee break.
Yeah.
And so they can grab you for
Come
questions.
say hi and...
Yeah, raise your hand if you're with Mandana's team from ThinkNear. Are you here? All right.
Back there.
Fantastic. Great. So thank you for kicking us off into a networking break. ThinkNear is going to sponsor the networking break.